Here's actually a question for you, Kiri, because I watched the other day, because I've been going through a lot of the background movies of the actors who appear in this, just to kind of see if there's any interesting parallels and stuff. And I know you helped us out in Batman Returns when we were talking about Richard III and Oswald Cobblepot, because there's some comparisons between those two characters and stuff. I watched the other day a production of Love's Labour's Lost.
Oh my goodness.
Starring one Alicia Silverstone.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
It came out in the early 2000s. It was directed by Kenneth Branagh. And it's weird because it's like it's a Shakespeare production in that whole vein of like, we're gonna modernize it. But instead of like setting it in present day, Branagh went, I'm setting it in like the 30s. And it's gonna be a musical. And so he threw out...
God, this was a thing.
He threw out like 70% of the dialogue and put in like a lot of like, Gershwin songs and stuff. It was weird, actually, again, you've been here, Kiri, because there's a version of I Won't Dance, that song. Aww. And I was like, that's a big brassy jazz version of that. I was like, I know someone who did a brassy jazz version of that song on YouTube a couple of years back.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, Kiri watched that production of Love's Labour's Lost. I was like, I know what I'm going to cover next.
Well, we can link to that if it's still available.
It is if you'd like. That's quite old now, I feel.
But in that, we had Alicia Silverstone playing the Princess of France. And I'm kind of stuck with Alicia Silverstone as an actress because... like, in that, she's actually quite good because she's playing, like, another rich person, like a rich, like, sort of privileged, like, a kind of like an old-timey Cher Horowitz, basically. And it's been a weird thing I've discovered throughout her career where she's so good in Clueless, and she's so good at playing those kind of preppy, upper-crust characters, but she herself is actually, like, quite, like, big checkered shirts, ripped jeans, laid-back kind of lady. But when she tries to do those kind of roles, she doesn't suit it at all to me. But I was just wondering, because she was, obviously such a big thing in the 90s, like, where do you stand with Alicia Silverstone and her rendition of Batgirl and her as a social entity?
I rather enjoy her. I grew up on Clueless, so, and funnily enough, the circus liquor she gets abandoned in is like a mile from my apartment.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I have. It's funny. She's in that. They're like, I think she says she's in Sun Valley, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're in North Hollywood, Burbank.
You know the truth.
I
mean,
do.
she is lost after all. So
anything set in Los Angeles suddenly loses a bit of its clout or its authority when you've lived in Los Angeles, and you're like, you can't get there in that time. What are you doing?
Well, it's like any movie that's set in London. Me and Niall are watching it like, that's Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But yeah, that it's not that far from us. When we first moved into this apartment complex, my wife had gone to meet friends at a bar for a party, and then she was going to walk back, and she called me and was like, I don't know where we are. But I'm at the place where Cher got abandoned. I'm like, I know exactly where you are. Hang on.
That's all you needed.
We had just moved in, so I got to rescue her. Like, Cher was rescued. It was really cute, and she was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like drag you," because it was my PJs. I had a night in, and she was like, "Didn't want to drag you out. I just couldn't remember our address," and I'm like, "It's fine." This is hilarious to me. But no, I love her. I also really loved Blast from the Past.
That's once again her and Chris Walken together.
Right.
Her and Chris Walken worked together a couple of times.
Brendan Fraser. But no, I'm fine with her, and as much as like I love Barbara Gordon, so Barbara Pennyworth, I guess, is her.
Barbara Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because she is the daughter of his sister.
Yeah.
Which is a weird choice, but given how they made, given what Commissioner Gordon is in these series, I get it. I get not wanting, because you can't take him seriously at all.
I mean, there's another aspect where in the original script, it wasn't Alfred's sister. It was, oh, she's Margaret Clark's girl. And Bruce is like, oh, Margaret Clark, I've heard loads about her. And apparently she's an ex of Alfred's.
Yep.
And for some reason, he seems to be very affectionately looking after her daughter, even though apparently she had another father. But there's a kind of lingering thing of like, is Alfred her dad?
Yeah.
I think that's why they changed it. Like, oh, we can't make it out that like Alfred and this woman have been lying
Yeah.
to this girl the whole time.
It's also the fact that like she's like supposed to be 19 maybe at the most, and Alfred's about 250 years old in this, and it's like,
Yeah. It's just
Hey,
that guy.
Alfred was still getting it on up until last week. You know?